Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Friday, December 13th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're tracking here for today. We're looking at some ice storm concerns across parts of the country. You know, we've had this very cold Arctic air coming in. We got some moisture coming back that may be in the form of freezing rain. We'll show you exactly where here in a second. We are looking at warmer weather briefly returning. And then as we go closer to Christmas, it looks like we got another cold snap coming, and it's going to get a little interesting. And we're dealing with several potential cutoff lows that could make forecasting a little bit tricky. I'll explain why here in just a second. Now, before we get into all that, first I do want to thank all the new subscribers here to the channel. Welcome on board. And again, if you're that 60% out there who have not yet subscribed to the channel, I need your help to grow this thing. Can't do it without your help. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, please leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends. I do appreciate you helping me support this channel. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're seeing here first. I want to bring this up first talking about the drought conditions across the country, because when I show you the long-range forecast, the climate outlook, not good news in this department. We were trying to trim away some of this drought conditions across the country, and a good part of the nation, I'd say about 70% of it, is seeing some sort of drought conditions. So I'll keep that in mind as we go through the forecast period. Now, what we're currently seeing here is we've got quiet conditions here across the eastern seaboard. Starting to see the moisture come back up here in the middle of the country, so we'll see a few thunderstorms, nothing severe firing up, and some of this moisture is going to work its way up into Iowa. That's my concern zone for ice. I'll show you a little more of that in a second. Starting to see things change out here on the West Coast, significantly so. In fact, as we take a look at the West Coast, so we got a steady plume of moisture that's going to be coming into Northern California, into areas of Oregon over the next several days. Still can't really get any real decent moisture down toward Los Angeles where they need it because of the wildfires down there. But one thing's for sure, they're going to see some heavy rains and some heavy high elevation snows across that portion of California and into Oregon here over the next several days. Now let's go ahead and talk about that winter weather advisory. We have that around here. Notice we've got that purple in there. That's the ice storm warning conditions there across portions of Iowa. And it may be a little bit more pronounced, but that's where the bullseye is currently showing you. I'm going to show you the model data on that in a second. Obviously, winter storm warnings out here on the West Coast, obviously with all that moisture coming in there, and winter weather advisories up into the Pacific Northwest and the interior as well. So definitely looking a little dicey when it comes to winter weather forecasting here over the next few days. Look at this cold Arctic air. It is still very brutal in here. It is -2 in Milwaukee this morning, -18. Not quite as cold as yesterday. We were seeing -24 in some locations yesterday, but still single digits in here. You got some very cold air that's been sitting here for a few days. We're going to bring some moisture over the top of that, and in the form of most likely rain. And cold is very shallow, so that's why that's a concern right there for potential freezing rain into that area, especially as cold as it is currently in that zone. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the heavy rains out here on the West Coast here. Eureka getting some pretty good heavy rains. That plume's coming on in. Areas up toward Mount Shasta are going to get buried here as some of this moisture works in. And it's like 34 degrees in Mount Shasta right now, and just some flurries around, but they're going to get blasted with some heavy snows as this begins to move on in. Now, we're also talking about the rain and a few thunderstorms coming out toward the middle of the country. So let's go ahead and talk about the latest from the Storms Prediction Center. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. This is your day one outlook here. Again, for the next several days, we've got thunderstorms to watch over several areas across the country. Here's your day one, obviously, for today here on your Friday. We're talking about this area here in the middle of the country from Missouri, Kansas, down toward Kansas. Also have a little bit of thunderstorm activity out here in the West Coast out there in Northern California. May see a few rumbles of thunder with that as well. Let's look at your day two outlook here. Again, this will shift just a little bit slightly more toward the east here. Missouri kind of getting into some areas of the southeast into Mississippi and portions of Tennessee and Oregon and into, again, California. Also seeing that thunderstorm chance continuing going into your Saturday as well. And the day three outlook, we'll check that out, take you through the weekend here, as it looks like that'll continue into the southeast as we're looking at your Sunday, going here across Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas, continuing with that rumble of thunder threat. Again, no severe weather expected, just some brief heavy downpours, a little bit of thunder, a little bit of lightning with some of the potential storms in those areas. Now, as far as the heavy rain threat is concerned, that's going to be predominantly held for the areas out toward the West Coast. So we're going to look here for the next couple of days. Again, we're talking about Northern California, the area where I just showed you there on the radar here across this region right in here. That's going to be the main concern. with a slight risk of some isolated flooding, obviously with some of the heavier rains coming into that zone. And this will continue into Saturday. Saturday also showing that generally in the same area for the potential for heavy rains. And as far as the day 3 outlook right now, not showing anything. So it's showing a flooding potential down less than 5%. So it looks like a couple of days with some pretty good heavy rains that's going to be inundating the areas there in Northern California here for the next couple of days for part of the weekend. Now let's go ahead and talk about the short-term forecast here as we're looking at the high-resolution model. There's 3 things I want you guys to keep an eye on here. We're going to be watching the cold air start to evacuate a little bit here across the areas of the Midwest and into the Northeast. That's zone 1. Next thing we're going to watch here is obviously the moisture increasing here across the middle of the country, and we're going to watch the moisture increasing out here on the West Coast as well. So those are the 3 zones that we're watching here in this first 42, 48-hour loop here, as we're going to see things begin to improve as that blue line begins to shift further and further north. But you notice as we go into your Saturday morning, seeing the rains here increasing across this portion of the country. The freezing line is lifting north here, so it tells me that whatever cold air is left is going to be shallow, and we're going to have to watch very carefully that areas there in Iowa where the freezing rain threat was going to be a problem there as that rain increases. So again, that could be quite significant freezing rain in that area. You start getting over a quarter inch, half inch of rain, you might get some power outages. Obviously, very slick road conditions. That'll be concerned there as well. Obviously, we're going to see the rains here increasing across California, increasing especially across Northern California, and some heavier mountain snows out into that zone here over the weekend, going throughout the day on Saturday. And then as we go through Saturday, going into Saturday night, this will begin to shift off toward the east there a little bit there. Starts moving, the rain starts to increase across areas of the Midwest. So by the time we get into Saturday night, going into Sunday morning, we're seeing the rains increasing here across the Midwest, coming in here across the southeast. We'll have a little bit of a wedge here across the eastern half of the Appalachians, getting into northeast Georgia, and looks like the interior section is picking up on the rain and the snow there across Idaho as we go into Saturday night and into Sunday morning. Now let's talk about the jet stream, okay? Obviously, the jet stream is going to be a little bit something to watch. I'll just put it to you that way here as we go through the next few days. Obviously, we've been talking about this for the last couple of days, the cold air retreating out, and we're going to see more of a Pacific flow here with these little disturbances that we're going to be tracking here for the next several days. So the temperatures are going to modify. We're going to see them warm up here going into next week. And then toward the end of next week, we'll start seeing it change again. So as we go ahead and take through the look at the jet stream, we'll see these storm systems come on through. We got a couple of them here going into Sunday here, going into the northeast. Here's another one coming out here. We got another one here off the west coast. So we got 3 systems we're kind of tracking here initially. And then as we go into next week, we're going to start seeing things begin to change a little bit. This little piece of energy here in the west, this one here is going to start diving down. We're going to see these little potential cutoff lows, and they make forecasting a little tricky because they take their little cold pockets with them, and you really don't know exactly how cold those little pockets are going to be until they kind of form, okay? So this one comes off, and this pinches off into the southeast. Now, I'll bring this up. I live in the southeast. I've seen these kind of situations where this happens before, and you can get a potential surprise snow events. It's not really showing it right now. It's just something to watch. This is going toward Thursday morning, December 19th. This reminds me of an event back in 2017. I remember seeing something like that, but that had a pretty good cold core with it. This one's not quite as cold, but again, we'll see if that holds. This is 156 hours out. We'll see if that continues to be a trend there to watch. That swings on out, and that swings on up to the eastern seaboard. Then we get the cold shot going into the 20th and 21st. So we get some cold air here. You see the cold air kind of really coming on down here. We got another trough here and ridging out here in the west. So that means we're going to see temperatures quite nippy across the eastern third of the United States going into the weekend prior to Christmas. Okay, that'll be coming on in, and then we'll see this come on. And there's another little cutoff low here feature, little cutoff there in the middle of the country as we go in toward the 23rd. That might bring some snows into areas here across the Midwest. That'll be to watch going into like Christmas Eve. So some people's snow chances, at least according to this latest run, we're still 258, still 10 days out. We're kind of on the edge here before I really get concerned about it. But something, again, we're just watching. You're making some snows there, and it stays cold into Christmas Day, and then it starts to moderate real quickly here as we go toward the 27th because this becomes more, again, a Pacific flow once again after that cold air begins to evacuate out of the east there as we almost getting closer and closer to wrapping up the month of December. So let's go ahead and look at this from the precipitation standpoint here as we go ahead and go past the first couple days. We just looked at that. So we're going to talk about this going into this weekend. So as we go into Sunday, we'll see the system here in the east really start to weaken off here a little bit, okay? And that starts kind of falling apart a little bit here as we go through the weekend. Then we'll see some moisture kind of get hung up here behind the system again through the Midwest and in through Texas. Looks like we got another little weak system coming in here, bringing a little snow here across portions of Minnesota and into Wisconsin. And of course, it's remaining active here on the West Coast going into your Monday morning. That's on your 18th. All right, so this will push off toward the east. That'll say goodbye. We'll see some rains going into the northeast, going into the Tuesday, and this pushes on off. And then looks like we're fairly seasonal, I say. I'm looking at where the freezing line is right through here. That's not really too bad for this time of year, to say the least. But this is going to be seeing this cutoff feature coming in toward the 21st. So this is something I'm going to watch closely. You see the cold core here hanging back across Mississippi. Here's the rain coming into this. If those are closer together, again, just watch that in the southeast, folks. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Again, I just see a cutoff low like that. I go, uh-oh. And I'm just going to watch that closely, because if this thing tracks across and it's colder than what the models are showing, then you're looking at maybe a potential surprise snow days before Christmas here across the southeast. This low wraps up, goes up the eastern seaboard, and when it does, it tracks some very cold air here across the eastern half of the United States going into that weekend prior to Christmas. And it looks like that's going to stay right into place here going into the 22nd and into the 23rd. Looks like things begin to moderate a little bit here into Christmas Eve. And then the Christmas Eve, this is going to be interesting here, because we have to watch here on Christmas Eve. Some of this will be in the form of snow across portions of Illinois and going into Indiana. Going in there, we got some rain down here toward the south going into the 24th. And this will push east. So it looks like some wet weather now showing up a little bit, not a whole lot, across portions of the Midwest and coming into the southeast going into Christmas morning. This is Christmas morning. Some of this could be snow. Looking at some of that, where the blue line is there, we could see some snow, and there's plenty of rain here in the south. A little bit of mountain snows out there in the west. And then after we get past Christmas, looks like a lot of the country is going to warm up here pretty decently here, as we'll see the cold air kind of staying mostly up here toward the north, and relatively mild, especially down here across Texas. Looks like we'll see mild temperatures going into the 27th there as far as the precipitation outlook is concerned. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the rainfall amounts. We're going to look at the next 10-day total here. As I go and take this out, again, we'll see the lake effect snows will continue here a little bit here going in throughout the day on your Friday. We're seeing the rains and snows here across the west picking up into your Friday as well for the next 24 hours. And then as we go through the weekend, we'll see that rain again picking up across the middle of the country. Again, Saturday morning, I have to watch this zone in here for potential ice. I'm going to show you the ice forecast there. Obviously, heavy rains out here on the west coast as well as we go in through your Saturday. So going into Sunday, that rain will begin to spread off toward the east a little bit, North Georgia, Alabama getting in the rain. And then we got, it kind of gets hung up again. We get some more additional moisture down there across areas of Texas and Arkansas. And we'll take this on out to 240 here, and you can see where this is going to go here out to 240. So getting some pretty decent rains here across the east. And that'll help some of the drought conditions here, but not so much out here in the west. And it looks like we'll see very heavy rain out continuing there out on the west coast. Now, as far as the ice problem is concerned, I'm focusing strictly here on the Iowa area, here in the north central area. Boom, we're going to light this up real quick. And you see this really kind of coming up pretty quick. We're going to be really watching the areas in here showing getting close to a half inch of ice, accumulated ice in this area. Again, we showed you temperatures this morning sitting down in the single digits. So this moisture coming in that quickly going from Saturday and into Sunday could be a bit of a problem. So we're going to watch that very closely. Definitely travel not recommended, because those roads are going to be very, very cold. They've been very, very cold with the Arctic chill that's been in there for the last few days. So the ground temperature should be plenty cold. And that's going to be the main concern here for the weekend. Again, you see the coming in throughout the day on your Saturday is when that heaviest precipitation is going to fall. All right, let's talk about the snowfall chances on this. Okay, so as far as through the weekend, here's where your snow is going to go through the weekend. I'll take this out to the end of Sunday. And we'll just bring this the end of the day on Sundays. There you go. So a little bit of lake effect here. Definitely seeing much heavier snows out here in the west, across California, the interior sections of Idaho, and getting into portions of Wyoming, western Wyoming, getting in on that. And then we'll go take you into next week. So let's go out to 168 hours here. Take you out for the next 7 days. And we'll take a little stop right out there. And you can see that, again, a little bit of snows here showing up here across portions of Pennsylvania into the Appalachians. Definitely continuing to add on to the snows out toward the west. And then we'll take it on out toward Christmas, all right? This is going out till the 19th. Let's go ahead and watch this very closely. Notice this real quick before I go further. This is 168 hours. It is showing a little snow down here with that upper level feature. Not a lot, mind you. It's just showing a little bit there. That's something I'm going to watch. I really, I live in the southeast, obviously, so I'm going to watch that closely if that upper low does something that's not showing currently. All right, so this goes on through, and then to the 21st, we get some pretty good snows here across the northeast. So the northeast into West Virginia, getting some snows, some lake effect also kicking there as well. And then going in toward Christmas Day, let's look at this. Going into Christmas Eve, boom, here comes some snow throughout the day on Christmas Eve. Look at this here. We're talking Illinois. We're talking areas of Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. We're adding some more snow out here in the west as well. So it looks like at least right now, this is still 10 days out. This is probably going to still change a little bit some. But at least now it's showing potential more snow going into areas of the Midwest going into Christmas Day. And then after Christmas, that's about it. So we'll see things begin to settle down. Most of the snow will be up toward the north. So that's what the current snow forecast is looking right now as we're heading closer to the holiday. And of course, this will get better, folks, as we get closer. Typically, once we get in within 7 days, then we'll be pretty much locked in on what's going on. But this is, again, anything beyond 7 to 10 days is kind of a projection based off, the dominoes and how they fall. And I'm definitely going to watch that upper low in the south for anybody down there. Let's look at the temperatures here. Again, we've got very cold temperatures here in the east, but don't worry, it's going to modify. We're going to see things warm up throughout the weekend. So by the time we head in toward Monday, you notice it here that, hey, we got a lot of red on this map. So it looks like we're seeing a big warm up here across most of the 2/3 of the country here for the most part as we head toward next week. But it's going to be short-lived. We're going to see another storm system come on out. You see this front. It's kind of interesting. You see a front through there, but still milder back behind it. But we got that front coming on through. It's going to drop the temperatures down a little bit. And then we're going to watch that upper level feature as we head toward next week. So that's the cold air coming in there. Boom, there's that cold air coming into the southeast. So this upper level feature here needs to be watched closely. How cold is that core going to be as it projects across the southeast? Because what it's going to do is going to track up this way, and then it's going to allow that cold air to come in back behind that system as we head toward the 21st. So as this tracks on out, boom, here comes it opens up the floodgates, and then we see some ice cold air coming in here the 21st of December across the Midwest, the high plains, and that'll eventually work its way across the northeast and the eastern half of the United States. So going into that weekend, the 21st into the 22nd, looks like below normal temperatures all the way down to Florida. They're going to be, you see temperatures down here running almost 20 degrees below normal down here across Florida. Yep, that's going to be quite nippy to say the least. And then this will continue to move on out and begin to moderate in 23, into the 23rd, into the 24th, kind of holding on just a little bit there into Christmas Eve across the southeast. But a lot of the nation begins to moderate going into Christmas Day, as we'll see temperatures running a bit above average for most of the country. And it looks like it stays that way really going into the 27th, 28th, going into that weekend after Christmas. So it looks like we'll see a big chunk of the nation here seeing milder conditions, at least based off what we're currently seeing here on the model run. So let's go ahead and take a look at the climate outlook here. We're going to take a look at this. And this is a big significant change from yesterday's run. I was hinting at this. With that cold air coming down, they're actually putting it near average for the eastern half of the United States, below normal out here in the west. And then really cold. Remember, I was showing you those temperatures down here going toward Christmas, where it was the 23rd, where it was showing 20 degrees below normal here across Florida and the southeast. So very chilly across the southeast, very mild here in the west. And when this gets update later today, we'll probably see this begin to roll on out. It looks like as we finish up the month of December, it looks like a lot of the nation will see above normal temperatures. Precipitation-wise, that's looking pretty limited. We're higher here across the East Coast, very dry here from the 18th to the 22nd, near normal here. And I kind of agree with that based off where we were seeing where the rain was falling there. But boy, big part of the country going into the week of Christmas showing a below normal precipitation right there. Obviously, I showed you that drought map, and seeing something like this, it doesn't really help that much when we're trying to beat back those drought conditions. But we'll see if this gets modified a little bit. Based off some of the trends that we're seeing with the long range, this might get trimmed back just a little bit, but that's what we're currently seeing here as far as the climate outlook. Again, this is day 8 through 14, taking us up to the 26th of December there with the precipitation outlook. So it is going to be one of those forecasts that I tell you, from a weatherman, a weather geek's perspective, I'm going to have people very watchful eye on this. Could be a little bit interesting, especially with the ice storm we're expecting this weekend. We are going to get a little bit of a break here as far as the cold air across the country, but we are still in that trend Again, always look for the trends from the long range of that cold shot coming down just prior to Christmas. And again, that upper level feature for the southeast, you guys who watch from the southeastern portion of the United States, gotta watch that closely. Again, not saying we're gonna get a snowstorm there, but I've just seen similar systems in the past that I've seen historically that can turn into surprise snow events. We'll see if that works out or not. All right, that's your update for now. Again, if you have not yet subscribed to the service, what you waiting for, man? Come on board and be part of this Weather Nerds family. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, I do like to have folks leaving me comments, give me some feedback, let me know if there's something you'd like to see, and as always, give me a thumbs up as we continue our battle against that almighty YouTube algorithm. All right, that's your update for this Friday. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.